Welcome, Housewives of True Crime.
Housewives of True Crime up in here.
If you are watching on YouTube, I am dressed I look like an advertisement actually for this damn movie. I'm going to see Barbie in like right after we are done recording. So
yeah, everybody's on the Barbie train, man. They have those live pop-ups everywhere. I see everybody's taking pictures in front of the Barbie shit.
I know. I think they've spent a damn fortune advertising this because the movie theater out here is berserk. Like it's got shit everywhere for Barbie. And so my girlfriends invited me to come and dress up. And so I got this lovely shirt on Amazon and I cut it up real cute,
Yeah, you did. You guys are geeks like that. I like it. I gotta tell you, I didn't play with Barbies as kids. I don't really fucking get it. I hope the movie is funny.
Your kids didn't really either. You know what's funny is
No.
Kyla never did. And I have Barbies from my mom and from myself that I was like, I'm keeping them all. I even got these Juicy Couture Barbies back in the day before I had Kyla. And I was like, I'm going to keep them for her in the box. Did not want anything to do with Barbies. Like, no.
Yeah, Kyla was one of those kids that like kept her toys in boxes.
yeah, because
it really pissed my girls off because they were like,
I want to play with
has
that.
dolls in boxes, Mom. Can't we just? Why doesn't she just give them to us?
American Girl dolls too.
It.
I'm like, I hope I have a girl grandchild that's gonna love them all because I'm keeping them for her eventually. So what else has been going on in your world besides Barbie?
Well, I'm happening, right?
You are now. Yes.
So last night was our anniversary.
Yes.
I know there's been a big build up to that. So
well, actually on our Patreon episode, we talked a little bit about how I gave Jeremiah an idea for your birthday gift. Or not your birthday, your anniversary
gift. Yeah, he didn't take it. He took someone else's advice.
Yeah, so I was a little bummed because I was picturing it all in my head.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Listen, what he got me is simple and pretty, and I love it.
And beautiful.
But maybe next time.
And you guys all know I'm a little extra. Harder. So yes, but I'm just impressed. Sure.
I think this is the first time he's ever gotten me a gift for our anniversary.
Yeah.
So ever.
15 years.
Ever.
It's good.
Yeah. 20 together. It's like pretty bananas.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Last night we just ditched our kids and went to a restaurant down the street because we couldn't find a babysitter.
Mm-hmm.
And we couldn't get in to this place. So we walked a couple doors down to this other restaurant. And it was just so funny being there on my anniversary. This place is called Coastal Kitchen. It's all like nautical blue and beige. They've got the big
like you
things. Yeah, listen, the crowd in Coastal Kitchen is like the over 40 crowd. It was like, look at us. It's just so weird. I've been with my husband since we were kids. We're like, we're all grown up. We are these old people.
I know.
Eating at the Coastal Kitchen.
It's
on a Wednesday.
It's a situation.
Yeah, it's a situation.
I was telling my girlfriend today.
It doesn't feel real. It feels like something wrong. I'm like, let's go to Turk's, the dive bar or something. I can't be this old.
I agree. I was talking to my girlfriend today about some just women drama, right? And she was like, you are talking about women that are over 40, right? Because she's like, this is what sounds like a teenager. And I was like, well, I don't think they're 40 yet, but yes, close enough, right? So, I mean, time just goes by fast, and time goes by fast. So you still want to be at the dive bar, and as do I, Gretchy. I kind of like, I'm one of those people that I either want to be at the bougie bar or the dive bar, but not the in-between Coastal Kitchen.
Yes, exactly.
Me a coastal grandma.
I hated that the meal was delicious. And it was like, this was so good. I see why everyone's here. It was like, I don't know.
Good
Can't be
wine,
that old.
good
Anyways,
people. Yeah.
all of it. Yeah. Good service. Great. So tonight we are venturing a little farther. So we have a babysitter coming, and our regular babysitter is not that we regularly go out, but the one that has worked for us the last couple times, she's gone, and I'm a little scared.
It's okay.
The other one, she's so good. Like, I had food delivered for them, and it came with
cleaned up
onions on it.
Oh, and she got the onions off before she gave the kids.
Not only did she scrape the onions off, she scraped the onions off. Then she went digging through my refrigerator, found more cheese to like cover up the flavor.
Oh yeah.
Put it in the oven.
Oh, see, that's actually like, she's like a genius. You barely find those people.
Who I'm sure is lovely, but she's a younger girl, and I texted her mom because I became friends with her mom and said, what can I feed her? I'm thinking pizza or burgers. And she's like, well, she's allergic to cow protein and gluten, so I will feed her before she comes. And I'm like, oh, she's not scraping the onions off the burgers. No.
Oh God, she sounds like me now. I'm allergic to cow protein too.
Everything. Yeah. I went to Whole Foods and I bought her some gluten-free snacks just so she doesn't get like hangry at my kids, because they are annoying.
That's nice. Okay. No, they're gonna be fine. It's gonna be good. All right, are you ready for this week's episode?
Yeah, get some.
Let's do it. Okay, you'll be happy to know that I wrote down our listener suggestion early, so I don't have to go rummaging through and make all of y'all wait, but mostly Gretchy. Okay, so this week's episode is brought to us by listener Jessica Bowling.
Oh, thanks, Jessica.
Yes, did you see she emailed us? So hopefully you're not doing this case also, because I did not tell you that
I read the emails that much.
Okay,
that's the truth.
So she wrote in. She's a newer listener, so thank you so much. And I'm glad she did, because some of you don't email us, and you could email us at housewivesofTrueCrime@gmail.com if you have a case suggestion. Also, I wanted to just let everybody know, if you haven't got enough of us, then check us out on Thursdays on Patreon, or bonus if you listen on Apple. Gretchy does an extra crime every single month. And then weekly, we talk shop and give you the current events, which, by the way, the current event right now, Gretch, with this girl that went missing and showed up 2 days later, is turning out to be feeling like a Sherry Papini kind of situation. Have you been following?
Yes, I followed a little. I was deep in the world of Ruja Ignatova, who I'm going to tell you about next week. But I didn't want to comment right away until a little more information came out, because I saw what her parents had to say and they seemed to believe her.
I know.
And so
I was the same way. So, I mean, my first thought was Sherry Papini. Then my second thought was like, I listen to too much crime. I do too much crime. I should not think she's a criminal. Then I'm wavering. So I do think within this week, we'll probably find out a lot more, and we will talk about it on Patreon. So if you guys want to hear it,
we will.
Check us out. Yeah.
I'm leaning to a Sherry Papini situation.
I know.
Which, and honestly, girl, people make mistakes. People don't always tell the truth. My daughter just did it today.
Oh, no.
Sucks. But at least it didn't eat your heart out for like 4 years or whatever, like Sherry Papini's.
Yeah, true.
Like, at least it's like, you're going to deal with it.
Yeah.
And we're all going to move on, and you're going to get on with the rest of your life.
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
Also, one more piece of business. Please tell your friends about us. We love growth and we love you guys. So if you love us, tell your friends. They'll love us too. Okay. So now on to their case. I am taking you back to the year of 2000. Y2K. You remember that year?
What? I sure do.
We were on the brink of computer extinction. Remember that? Everything was just going to go berserk.
I do. Yes. I went to Walmart, bought the water, all that shit.
Oh my God.
And then I went and partied my face off.
And what did you listen to?
What did I listen? We're gonna party like it's
1999. Yeah. The Prince song. Yes, we all did it. And then it hit midnight, and then we were in a new millennium, and everything was just as it was. We, except for these two college kids, the year 2000 did not turn out the way that they probably had hoped. Me and you, Gretchen, on the other hand, we were at Outback, and we were at Winchester's after Outback, and we were partying our little booties off in Ventura. The kids I'm talking about, they lived in Pennsylvania in a county called York. It's a pretty small kind of area. There is a river running through it called the Susquehanna, and I hope I'm saying that right. You guys can all tell me if I'm not.
Sounds sexy, however you're saying it.
Yeah, it does, right?
Like sex in Ohana.
Sex in Ohana. Sounds like sex in Hawaii. That sounds actually awesome also. Okay.
It's good. Trust me.
You were just there, so you do know. Okay, so there's a bunch of townships all around. The township of Susquehanna is small, and via Wikipedia, there's just over 20,000 people that live there. And when I look at buying property, there's not much. So I don't really know if there's 20,000 total people living there, but maybe. There is houses that you can buy for under $100,000. They look pretty run down, and they look to be on the river's edge. However, if you go over to the other townships, there are higher priced homes, even some in the million plus dollars. So I don't know. Maybe that's just how Pennsylvania is. I'm not very familiar with Pennsylvania. So it was just the turn of the century on January 8th, 2000, when two 18-year-old freshman college kids were excited to be on their second date. Daniel Zapp and Danielle Keener. Danielle went by the name Danny, and Daniel went by the name Dan. I mean, how perfect, Dan and Danny. It's like sitting in a tree, Kissing.
Yeah.
The two were really into each other and thought it was a perfect afternoon to take a stroll to the river, skip some stones, and just talk. As they were skipping some stones, a red beat-up truck pulled up next to them. A man got out of his truck with his Rottweiler, stumbled around, asked the two if they needed a ride. Dan and Danny thought really nothing of this guy. I mean, they thought it was weird that he was coming up and talking to them, but they just told him, no, we're good. The man hopped back into his truck like he was going to leave, but he didn't leave. He backed his truck around to corner these two teens. He then jumped out of his truck, and this time with a 9mm handgun. He told both of them to get into his car, and they did. Dan was begging this guy to just take whatever he wanted, his watch, his car keys. He told him he'd tell him where his car was. He could have it. But this guy, he was just erratic and crazy. He didn't want any of their belongings. He actually didn't seem to know what he wanted. According to 48 Hour episode, he was drunk and just driving around like a madman, talking and yelling. He eventually would say, well, now you've seen my face. What am I going to do? And the two, they begged for their life, telling him they would do anything just to live, just to let them go. They would do anything for this guy. At one point, he stopped down a desolate street right by the river again, not on the same like little path that they were on, but I don't know, still on this beautiful sounding river name. He got them both out of the truck. He started shooting his gun into the river, yelling things, being super erratic, shooting again and again in the river. With every shot, the two of them got more and more nervous that this guy would eventually have the nerve to shoot them. He finally looked at Danny and he said, and Danny is the girl, he said, you said you would do anything. Danielle knew exactly what this dirtbag was thinking, and she just lowered her head. He had this big, his big bodyguard dog with him. So he basically stuck him on Dan. So Dan couldn't move or do anything crazy while he raped Danielle. This man was a monster. And although Danielle meant that she would do anything to spare her life, this guy didn't care. After he was done assaulting Danielle, he told the two to walk to the river. Dan and Danielle clung to each other with every ounce of despair, praying to God and Jesus that they would have mercy on their souls. They told each other they loved one another, and just as they said it, this monster fired his gun again. This time, it was right at Dan's head. Dan slumped forward with blood running from his head, and Danielle knew she was next. And she was. Danielle was shot in the face. He dragged both of their bodies to the icy cold river and just threw them in. So I don't talk about divine.
This is a real fucking upper.
I know.
This one sucks.
I'm sorry. I told you. I told you.
Please. Happy Monday, everybody.
I know. Okay. I know. Okay. But listen, it gets better. I promise. I told you already that it was not good on Thursday on like last week's Patreon episode that it was kind of a downer. Okay?
Well, I guess I forgunk.
You did. Okay. So listen, I think prayer is powerful sometimes. And in this instance, I think it was because by the grace of God or something bigger than ourselves, Danielle opened her eyes in the water. And when she did, she saw Dan. Holy and mind shit. You, they both weren't thrown in there at the same time. I mean, this guy is like pulling each one of them separately, right? Like, I don't know how it happened. She was spitting out blood and chunks of what she didn't realize at the time were pieces of her jaw. Oh. Dan grabbed onto Danielle's hand and looked at her. And they both looked at the river's edge, and this guy was just staring at them like a fucking monster. And Dan said to her, "Play dead." And so they both did. They both just laid in the river and let the river just sweep them down the stream. As they drifted down the river, another miracle happened. An angel, as some would call him, or a duck hunter, as he would probably call himself, was also standing at the river's edge at that time. He saw these two large pieces of something coming down. And as he like kind of looked to see, like, what the hell is that? He noticed it was a body, and actually two bodies. So he reached out and grabbed them, and he pulled them both to shore. He could see that they were both in really, really bad shape. Blood was rushing out of their heads. What they think is in the icy cold water, it kind of like stopped their blood from rushing, out of them. But once they were pulled out, they started to lose blood fast. Yeah. Ooh. They both couldn't speak. Danielle was in and out of consciousness and on the brink of death. The duck hunters went to call 911, and both Dan and Danielle were rushed to the hospital. Danielle was immediately placed in an induced coma. Her injuries were really severe. She had been shot through her jaw, and her jaw was in a million pieces. Dan was conscious, but he was unable to speak. He was on a ventilator, and the bullet went through the back of his ear, through his windpipe and out. And both were in critical condition. Listen, I think about this because they said that Dan told her to play dead. It's like, but he had a bullet through his windpipe. It's like, this is where I'm like, somebody was looking out for these two. Like, they were both not meant to die this day.
Well, I'm glad, given the intensity of this story, that this is turning into a survival thing.
I know.
You're turning the Monday around. I was a little pissed.
I know.
We're supposed to be crime light. This is crime
heavy. I know it really is. It's still, to me, it still is very crime heavy. Even though they did survive and the story does end well, but fuck, man. I mean, I don't know. We could talk about the takeaways after. I don't know. So although these two were in shock and one was unconscious, both were unable to speak. The police knew that it was a critical time to try to find out who did this. Like, time is of the essence when it comes to these things. So they scoured the river's edge for any clues, and they found the crime scene. And they found 9mm shell casings that laid by the river, in the river, a large amount of blood that was on the rocks and dirts where the tragedy occurred. And while Danielle couldn't provide any help, Dan, although mute, could write, and he did. He remembered a lot. He knew what the guy looked like. He was white, around 40 years old. He had a dog, a Rottweiler named Sam. He had a beat up red Chevy truck. He knew the type of gun this guy had and the type of shoes he wore, which were black Nikes. And it didn't take long for the police to have an idea of who this could be. There was one man they knew quite well, a man named William Babner. William, I can imagine, went by the name of Bill. But William is what they knew in the justice system. He had some arrests for drunk driving, domestic abuse, theft, just to name a few. He drove a red truck, a beat up old one, and he also owned a Rottweiler named Sam. So they pulled a photo lineup.
Sounds like that's your man.
Sounds pretty easy, right? They pulled the photo lineup and showed Dan a bunch of pictures of all these men, right? And immediately Dan picked out William's photo. As soon as he saw it, Dan was scared. His eyes were wide. Just his face alone, the cops knew that it was this guy. William at the time was living with his girlfriend who had a child. I'm not sure if the child was the girlfriend's and not his, or it could have been his. I suspect it was not his child because I found another court record for William that was like a child custody record, and that was in 99, maybe 98. So I do know this guy has a spawn out there. Hopefully he or she got all of the mother's genes and none of his.
Word.
Cops knew that he had a gun, so they wanted to wait until the girlfriend and the child were out of the house before they swooped in and arrested William. And they did that, just that. The girlfriend left, and then early in the morning, and then the kid left on the bus around 8. And right then they had the whole SWAT team and everything ready to go arrest William. In the home, they found his black Nikes with blood splattered on them. They found the 9mm handgun. He didn't seem to want to throw that one away. They found the truck, all the clothes he had on that day, and his poor dog, Sam. He was toast, and he knew it. But like all douche canoes, Gretchy, he would not plead guilty. He made these poor people have to relive their nightmare, and a nightmare it was, not just for that moment, but for a long time. Danielle had horrible nightmares for a very, very long time. Even after her surgeries and getting her face back to normal, she couldn't shake being scared to just walk alone, be in the dark. I mean, she went back to college and I'd be fucking terrified. And she was.
Yeah, I would be terrified. And I don't know if this is like, I would be worried that I would somehow blame the boyfriend maybe too, or even vice versa, that he would blame her. Like they didn't do enough to help each other.
Funny you say that, because that is how Dan felt. Dan blamed himself. He blamed himself for the pain that Danielle experienced. I'm sure he blamed himself for him sitting there while she was being raped. I mean, the amount of guilt this guy felt was so severe that he could not talk to Danielle any longer. Like every time he did, it was so hard on him. And so he distanced himself from her. I mean, it's gotta be super hard. He also didn't go to therapy.
It's gotta be super hard. I also want to say that I'm not saying that that's how you should feel or whatever, because, like the point always is that you survived. So whatever you did was the right decision. Right.
Well, you know what the police
and he
say.
Probably did save her life by telling her to pretend, fake that she was dead.
Dude, by the way, what the police say is that Dan is actually the real hero in this because he remembered everything, right? If it wasn't for Dan, they would have never probably caught this guy. And so, yes, there were things that he could say, but dude, I mean, it's a miracle. Like the whole thing is a miracle. It's a miracle that he was in right with her at the river. It was that they both lived through gunshot wounds through the head. I mean, that doesn't happen ever. Happens rarely.
Yeah.
Rarely. And that they both would become conscious in the river and be not drowned. I mean, all of it is, it's incredible. It's an incredible story. Both of them spoke at the trial. William decided not to speak at the trial. William actually handed the judge a note at the end And it said he wanted to fire his attorney because he didn't think he was accurately represented, which it's like, okay, go fuck yourself. They did try to say in his trial that he was hopped up on Xanax and Adderall and fucking, I don't know what else, alcohol, and all these things all together made him do this. And he has no recollection or memory of that night, but I don't care. Like you do something like that, you should fucking rot in hell. Okay. Yeah. The judge was definitely not amused by this guy at all and gave him the maximum sentence to every single charge against him. And it was a woman, and she had them run consecutively instead of concurrently. So he was sent to prison for over like 160 years to 200 something years. So essentially she gave him a life sentence, which he deserved. Like he didn't murder them, but he murdered them, like that's what he was out there to do. And to me, I'm like, who else have you done that to? This was your first rodeo? I'm not buying that.
Yeah. Hard to believe, right?
It's hard to believe that that was the first time somebody ever did something that crazy. William is currently incarcerated in Pennsylvania. I don't really have any other information on him. I think he's like 64 now. As for Dan and Danielle, they both met the loves of their lives in college. It wasn't each other. They married different people. They both have children of their own now. They have since rekindled their friendship over the years, probably after like many years of
healing.
therapy.
That's nice.
Yes, Danielle says in the 48 Hours special that their souls will forever be connected and they're very good friends now. And I agree, their souls will probably always be connected. I mean, they definitely had something special. They both look like they are super thriving. One of Danielle's friends spoke also about Danielle's courage in college and how she got up, I think at some event for rape survivors, and she in front of everybody told her story, and it gave her like this real sense of empowerment, which I like look up to. Dan has his PhD and he looks to be a very successful business guy.
Wow.
So everything is good. So all this case was real tragic. I have to say, I'm really thrilled that these two are living to tell about it and they're successful humans in our society.
You know what it was? There was no foreplay tab. You just got right to the punch. You just took me to the dark place. You didn't lead me there this time. I think that because we do, I mean, some pretty heavy shit, but I started my gut was not expecting that.
I know.
You know what I've been thinking about? So this is probably like 3-week-old news, but we haven't discussed it. This Leslie Van Houten. Do you know who that is? She was one of the Manson killers.
Yes. And she was let out of prison.
Yes. After appealing. So she was 19 at the time. She stabbed 2 people to death. I know their family, the LaBiancas, are, they've been attending her parole hearings like every year, which those poor families, when you're in that situation, they have to go to the hearings like every 5 years and stand before the parole board, if they want to still continue to be heard.
And did they say they didn't want her out?
No, they do not want her out. So what do we think about that?
Well,
I mean, she's a very old lady. I mean, part of me is like, I don't feel like she's a danger to society.
Listen,
I don't.
I think she probably has been reformed. I think she made a really, really, really poor decisions when she was pretty young and she was under the spell of somebody. I think it could happen to a lot of us.
I don't know if I could get stabby tab. I don't know.
I don't think it could. I don't think I could get stabby unless it's like somebody was going after my children or somebody I love dearly. But
it's not like she robbed a bank. I mean, she got stabby.
Yes, I know. But I don't know.
Honestly, I don't know. I'm conflicted about it because I think
her life,
she's reformed, but I also think if it was my
I would be like
family,
no way.
I'd be like, no, sorry. Yeah. You don't get to taste the taste of freedom, anymore. And
I can imagine her life is not going to be that great. I can't like just think about everything that's changed. She doesn't even know how to, use a cell phone. There's so much has changed.
She's got to go live in a halfway house now. She better
Yes.
go work for like, the Angel Food Network or like something. Like, girl, you better if you got this time out, and I'm not sure you should have or shouldn't, but
work for a nonprofit.
Better do something
good,
extra fucking good.
Okay.
Extra.
I believe that. I think that's a great idea. Work for a nonprofit for people that have like been in cults or domestic abuse, anything like that, where you can put what happened to you, even though it was awful and you were the monster in this scenario, you can put that to good use.
Yeah. You know what other monster I've been reading about? I went down a little rabbit hole. We don't talk about the Chris Watts case, even though there was that big Netflix documentary about it. But I stumbled upon, because of my crazy history, there's all these people that think his girlfriend had helped him kill Shanann and the children. And now she's gone. I mean, I don't know.
She's not with the guy anymore. I mean, she doesn't talk to him.
There are people
prison or anything,
right? There are prisoners who say she writes him letters.
Dude,
it's pretty crazy, right? I don't know.
I would like to know that.
Feel free. I would like to know too. It's interesting. She had some interesting Google searches. Apparently, she searched like how much money did Amber Fry make?
What?
Stuff like,
how do they know that though?
I think it was like in a police report or something. I'm not reporting this case, so I don't have all my facts straight. I'm just telling you, it was a small rabbit hole I went down because I was surprised to hear that, because I actually just feel sorry for her, and maybe I still should. Maybe this is just internet fodder. But I
don't know. How can you feel sorry for her? I don't feel sorry for her because it's I don't know.
I mean, she was just trying to get banged,
but she was dating a married man.
Yeah, I mean, that is never a good idea, ladies, but I don't think that just dating a married man makes you a co-conspirator to, murder.
I don't either.
Lots of people date married men. We have lots of listeners that write into us that have dated the married men.
We have lots of friends.
Co-conspirators for murder.
I know. I actually love.
We have friends that have done it. Yeah.
You guys,
as long as it's not my man, you can live.
I love all of your stories, by the way, all of your juicy.
We love them. We can't get enough of them. Never stop sending them. Yeah.
Please send more because I want to read all of it. I mean, even if you have a juicy story that doesn't entail like cheating, we love juicy stories.
We want to hear it. We're nosy. Yeah.
We are. And we won't ever tell your name, so don't worry about that. We are tight-lipped, zoop zoop. But it's fun, right? And it's fun to tell your juicy story. Jesus.
Word.
You get more juice when you listen to Patreon too. We tell more of our juicy stories.
Word.
All right. So I think that's a whop for today. Like I told you on Thursday, nobody died.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah. If you want to follow us on all of the channels, please do, whatever they are. Also, we're on YouTube. So if you haven't checked us out, I look like Barbie right now. I'm going to the movie. Hey, do you love this necklace? Isn't it so cute?
Yeah, I have like that exact. It's like paperclip style.
Yeah, but it's like
I have one like that.
All neon
different colors.
Yeah, I'll buy you one.
No, that's your style.
Anniversary. What?
Oh, thanks.
It's not your style. My style.
That's a little more colorful. It's your style,
especially today. Okay, so anywho, what do you have something to say?
No, that's it.
Okay, that's all. So check us out on YouTube.
All she wrote.
And if you haven't reviewed us, please do so. Apple likes those reviews, and Gretchen can't get enough of them. Just kidding.
I can't.
Gretchen. She needs a little boost.
They give me diarrhea. Okay.
All right. Clink, clink, guys.
Okay. Clink, clink.